Hey, I'm live. Wonderful. Basically, this is me being live in lieu of editing a video this week, and I'm going to try to keep it somewhat shorter than the 30 minutes of raw footage that I've already shot trying to make my video for this fortnight. My phone has decided it doesn't want to communicate with my computer, and so I couldn't get my raw footage off, and then hopefully I can save the stream and everything's good. Ryan, I haven't seen your video yet, so I'll just have to respond to the other lovely nerds. I've talked about this a lot, and I don't know if it's going to make this video any less rambly. So ultimately, I am very upset, and it has caused me to have kind of a hard line in the sand as far as Fantastic Beasts 2. The bigger question, of course, being can you separate the art from the artist, which has been a question that people have been challenging for a very long time, especially in nerd culture, but also, just in history. And there are some very famous paintings and galleries across the world, and the masterpiece was painted by the master, and that master was an asshole. So, this isn't a problem specific to nerd culture, but I believe that in the year of our Lord 2018, I think this question is getting taken more seriously, and because of the internet, and that the power of streaming and statistics and analytics, and the fact that you can't just judge a movie's success by its box office numbers anymore, or what 4 or 5 approved critics say. How social media has changed things. It puts this question that we've been trying to answer, at least discuss this fortnight, to the forefront of a lot of people's minds. And because Warner Brothers and the Wizarding World of Harry Potter are juggernauts when it comes to the entertainment industry, this is really an easy example to something that is, I would say, easier to decide, quote unquote, which side of the line you're on. And as was said earlier in this fortnight, it's really a gray issue where it's not as black and white. And I also believe that it's a personal issue. You have to personally decide where you stand. I, for one, absolutely believe that that marriage was miserable, and I believe Amber Heard in her story. I also, I followed this really closely, as close as I could do with what we were given coverage-wise, and man, if this had happened, had this has come out this year and not a few years ago, I feel like Amber Heard would be more believed en masse than when she did, when her restraining order and court case in the divorce came up when it was actually happening. And I don't know if you guys remember, earlier on in their marriage, they had this really awful, awkward apology video for when they took their animals into Australia without doing the quarantine law, and they all were really sorry, but not that sorry. And so I definitely believe that their marriage was a unique one. And there's also been a lot of speculation about Johnny Depp and his drinking and alcohol problem. And so I find it interesting and not at all surprising that people will forgive him and totally explain and accept that he's a drug and alcohol problem, but that he couldn't possibly be an abuser. And along the lines of when this story was coming out, a few months later, Kevin Spacey was revealed to be an abuser, and Lickety Split was fired from his Ridley Scott movie. I'm pretty sure, I'm like 90% sure it was a Ridley Scott movie. And within a month of that movie's release, Christopher Plummer was rehired. They reshot all the scenes that Kevin Spacey was supposed to be in. They re-edited it and they released the movie on time. And I remember tweeting out or putting up some status like, if this is something that can be conceivably done because this particular entertainment industry or particular production company and such in the entertainment industry is like, this is the standard we're going to hold our employees to, Warner Brother has no issue. And yet someone who allegedly is an abuser but not allegedly has had a drug and alcohol problem can be the head of their films, with him being the center of Pirates of the Caribbean and then now Grindelwald, which then outside of an activism and moral issue, I also don't think Johnny Depp should be cast in stuff. I don't see him not as Johnny Depp on the screen. Like, whenever Johnny Depp is in some sort of character, it's, oh, that's Johnny Depp doing a thing on the screen. I don't see him disappear. And so I also don't even think he's that good of an actor. And then not only did the news of alleged abuser Johnny Depp being cast as fictional actual manipulator and abuser Grindelwald, like, it's so upsetting to me that he's gonna get to be paid to like not act at all. and like, you know, continue to be supported financially by this situation, and therefore again letting him have power, when I do believe that people deserve second chances, but they also, you know, need to prove that they deserve them and that they are actively going to change their ways. And I don't think that if you have an issue with drugs and alcohol, continuously working on multiple movies is going to be a thing. And it really, really pisses me off when people have like stated, oh, well, Johnny Depp was never like that with me. Johnny Depp was not like this on set. I have never seen this like abusive Johnny Depp. He wasn't like that in my marriage via his ex-wife. And I'm just like, of course he wasn't. Because when you are a manipulator and have an abusive side to you, you're not going to abuse everyone in your life, especially if you're someone who's climbing for success. You're going to only show that side of you to the people that you think you can subjugate. And if you have a public persona that is attached to something like Pirates of the Caribbean or, I don't know, Willy Wonka, and you have like this public persona that you're an actor who can be in any kind of acting thing, like, of course you're going to keep that side of you offset. And probably if this is something that has grown with the amount of ego that can come with the amount of success and power someone can get, then it probably also wasn't in the first marriage, but at the same time the first marriage didn't succeed. And if the ego got too big for the first marriage and then like they decided that that wasn't going to be okay, then maybe there wasn't time for, again, if he has a problem with drugs and alcohol, like, anyways, this wasn't supposed to go as deep into speculation on Johnny Depp. I also was very upset with the first Fantastic Beasts movie. Like, I loved so much of that first movie. I was so excited about 1920s. I really love a lot of the casting in that. And then we have the big reveal that Greaves is actually Grindelwald, which was really upsetting because I loved Colin Farrell as Greaves. I think he did a fantastic job, and he has such a wonderful stage presence. And it, like, under the category of all your faves are problematic, like, Colin Farrell was a bad boy in the beginning of his career, and they were like, oh, so naughty. Oh, I don't know, he's so naughty. And then he's been on frickin' Ellen saying, yeah, no, I met my wife, and I realized that if I'm going to keep this woman in my life, I need to make some major changes to my life. And now I'm a dad of like 3 kids, and I can't imagine my life being any way like how I was. I can't imagine acting how I used to. And I've definitely changed. And I think he's changed for the better, because I think his acting has just gotten so much better. And I think because he's a happier person, he's probably better at doing his own craft. And, you know, that is to me someone who's shown that they've changed. And also, again, if Colin Farrell was the Colin Farrell of the 90s in 2018, I don't think he would have the chance. I don't think the way mostly men in Hollywood have acted in the past, you know, history of Hollywood, if they, and another problematic fave, Hugh Grant. I don't think Hugh Grant would have escaped his escapades unscathed. I really don't think that going forward, people who have made poor choices that have ended up putting down people or abusing others or taking advantage of their power are going to escape the consequences of their actions, because everything is so public now. And so our responsibility as viewers is to, you know, make that moral choice for ourselves. How are we going to or not going to support our problematic faves, and how are we going to or not going to vote with our dollars and statistics on what we deem is acceptable, and how we're going to move the needle forward as far as how, you know, we respect each other as humans, even in an entertainment industry, which is our escapism, which I have an issue with, you know, my escapism of potentially Wizard Hitler being played by an abuser, but also past that, there's this whole thing surrounding Nagini, who apparently is a woman who turns into a snake because she has a women's only illness that attacks females with magic and is passed down only on the woman's side of genetics within wizards. And so, yeah, instead of like an animangus, you don't get to control when, or you can control when you change into a snake and or other animal, but you know that eventually it's going to be fatal in the sense that you're going to get stuck as that animal. Whereas an animangus is a learned magic and you can control it at will, and then you have to register, blah, 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 which is a whole other, you know, deep dive into culture that we can do. But like, this is a female targeted disease that J.K. Rowling has decided to add into canon. And then in casting of this role, they put and this actress I've seen in a few interviews and press surrounding seems like a sweet, sweet person, but ultimately this now woman of color is going to get stuck as a snake and end up serving Voldemort in the future, and is going to be the servant of Voldemort. And you're just kind of like, cool. That's not problematic at all. Like, that doesn't ring any problematic bells to anybody. That this, and if it's her origin story, I still just don't see how it's like not great representation. And I like that also makes me really sick to my stomach. And then in my Granger Leadership Academy, which is a subsection of the Harry Potter Alliance, someone who was talking in the thread where we were also discussing, like, are you going to sign the petition to not ever go see the movie, or what are you deciding to do? There's like a huge discussion thread over there. Someone was saying, you know, all this being said about Johnny Depp, remember that being in Problematic Faves, it's not too long ago that Eddie Redmayne was cast and played a trans woman who is not trans nor a woman. And so, you know, asking people to be better about the entertainment, like, why are you going to go to town on Fantastic Beasts when you didn't freak out over that movie with Eddie Redmayne? And that's, again, something that makes this so complicated. All the while, I think this parallels with, you know, Problematic Faves. When it comes to Johnny Depp, I also personally haven't seen him on the press junket at all, with the exception of at San Diego Comic-Con, he showed up to the Fantastic Beasts panel, and then the way it was scheduled, Amber Heard, his ex-wife, was due to be on that stage right after with her cast of Aquaman. And it ended up being a huge PR blunder, and he basically hasn't been a part of most press, and especially recent press. He might have been on a talk show or two in like the last few weeks, and I think that if he was probably on something that was very easily controlled and exactly could be, like, there was no way that it could be messed up because the person asked a very specific set of questions and they stayed within the box. Whereas, like, the rest of the cast is doing the fun, you know, YouTubers coming to set or going to Vanity Fair's YouTube channel or BuzzFeed's YouTube channel and doing things. And then you've got Ezra Miller, who also, Problematic Fave. I really love Ezra Miller, but like a year ago, he said some really questionable things, and you know, is now doing a genderqueer photo shoot in Playboy and JQ, and playing with gender and talking about how he wants to, like, be understood as a queer person, blah, blah, blah. And hopefully he's learned from his snafu because, you know, he's also young and has the opportunity to be like, yo, I'm sorry I messed up. I can't believe I said that. I don't think he really necessarily has, but I also don't think people are really challenging him on that enough or as much anymore. But all this to say is, when you have this kind of visibility and power, you're responsible for the people who pay attention to you to a degree. Like, with us on the internet, we have to recognize that as vloggers, someone might watch our YouTube channels and decide that they look up to us. So you're not necessarily responsible for how your viewers take you, but you're responsible for what you put out there. And if you're proud of everything you put out, then cool, great. But that's like a really important decision that you make for yourself. And so, you know, when it comes to the fame side of being an actor or a singer or whatnot, like, there is like a negative side of it where you've suddenly become Spider-Man, and with great power becomes great responsibility. And I definitely think, I mean, everybody's moral compass is up to them, but if you also look at people being held to a standard and not being like, when their mistakes and horrible choices come to light, but they're not free from consequences. You can look at Chris Hardwick, which if you weren't paying attention or didn't realize why he got fired from hosting all the panels of San Diego Comic-Con and fired off of, I believe, Talking Dead, and a lot of the places gave him the boot because his ex, Chloe Dykstra, released a very detailed message about the emotional and mental abuse that and manipulation and gaslighting she experienced while in a relationship with Chris Hardwick for 3 years, and how it took a toll on her mentally and even physically, resulting in some eating disorder type issues. And it's all on the internet. You can go find it. If I bother, I can link it in the bottom of the description. But like, she never named him, but it's very, very obvious and clear if you followed either of their careers or Instagrams, that's who they were talking, or that's who she was talking about. And it was very therapeutic for her to write that. She got so much abuse online that she stepped away for about a week before coming back, and she still is very, very limited on what she puts on online since then. And Nerdist had already exchanged hands, like the company Nerdist had already exchanged hands. He had left his responsibilities at Nerdist, I think, shortly after they broke up or something. I don't remember. But Nerdist, they put out a statement, and they also removed him off their website. That being said, I absolutely believe Chloe. Chris Hardwick is an ex-alcoholic, and hopefully he's remained sober, and I hope that he is still making healthy choices. But I remember this also happened this summer. This all hit, and I remember seeing Ann Wheaton, who is Will Wheaton's wife, and Will Wheaton is notoriously one of Chris Hardwick's best friends. And I remember watching Lydia Hurst, who's now Chris Hardwick's current wife, Lydia's Instagrams and Twitters, and Will Wheaton's Instagrams and Twitters, and even Ann Wheaton's Instagrams and Twitters and social media suddenly get bombarded with harassment of people like, how could you let him treat Chloe this way, and da-da-da-da-da. And Will Wheaton being like, I didn't know, and I feel so blindsided that I didn't know my best friend like this, that I didn't know that he was like this. And please, like, and then I remember Anne being like, I just want people to give us space. Like, this is, you need to, like, we're finding out about this too. I don't think you would be a fan of us knowing, and that we would be anyway accepting of this kind of behavior. And so when people are accused, like there's a whole bunch of people near them that either knew and covered up for them or didn't know, because manipulators hide that part of them. Abusers hide that. They're so good at gaslighting and only being controlling in certain sections. And that's, excuse me, I just burped. I just, even if it's just an alleged thing against Johnny Depp, I cannot believe that the family-friendly Warner Brothers and J.K. Rowling dug in their heels, and this is the hill that they're going to climb on. And then now the movie's already been out, and so many people in my life have seen it, and I'm just kind of like surprised that so many people are willing to look past it. And all that to be said, let's get to where I stand on the issue, as far as specifically to Fantastic Beasts. And the question at A Greater Thing, I'm trying to take this at every instance as an individual instance, and individually with Fantastic Beasts, I refuse to spend any more money on Fantastic Beasts and that series. I already own the first movie. I believe I have not watched it all the way through since owning it. I will not be spending money on seeing Fantastic Beasts 2, to which I am not ever going to refer to it by its full title, because I still think that it could have been recast. And there's a Vanity Fair interview talking with this lady talking to this guy who went in on what they thought, like, Johnny Depp's star power, with whether it was going to hurt or help Fantastic Beasts, and his thing was like, I think that he'll be fine. I think that they're not straying from Grindelwald because they kept it in the title, but I think that individually in the US, this is going to hurt his star power and the movies that they make, but in the foreign markets, most likely the Asian markets, he'll be fine. And unfortunately, I believe that to be true as well. But when it comes to my market in America, I refuse to spend any money on it. However, this is where I think it gets tricky, is I will unfortunately be a statistic in watching it, because since I feel this strongly about a movie that I haven't seen yet, I owe it to myself and my beliefs and my opinion to make sure that this movie is what it is. And I loved Queenie and Tina and Jacob and Newt and Ezra Miller and Colin Farrell, even though he's not in this one. I owe it to myself to make sure that I'm right, and if I'm wrong and they do better, question mark, or if it falls down in somewhere in the middle, I owe it to myself to know what I'm talking about, if that makes sense. I don't know if I could be any more Ravenclaw. Like, I don't believe in the casting of this movie, and I'm very, very nervous about the storyline and story arc of Nagini, and I'm sure there's some other stuff that I'm just like, yikes, about. But I am a Ravenclaw, and I believe that I have to watch this movie, and I'm hopeful that I'm going to get to be able to enjoy parts of it because of the characters that I love. And of course there's magical beasts, but when it comes to the franchise, I can no longer support it. I barely support the mainstream Harry Potter franchise anyways because I'm a Ravenclaw, and the Warner Brother official stuff is all incorrect. All of the Ravenclaw stuff that is officially licensed is incorrect. But, that's a different hill that I'll die on, is that the Ravenclaws got gypped in the Harry Potter universe. Oh, and then really quick, the other problematic thing is, of course, like, Ilvermorny and how it is irresponsibly and sloppily put together as a canonical history of the American magic school, because of how, like, sloppily the appropriated stories and backstories and histories of Ilvermorny is from Native American and OG Americans. What is the word that I'm thinking of? There's a word that I've been trying to use instead, and now I can't think of it because it's late o'clock and I'm tired, and look at this, 30 minutes in, but I know that Holly will watch this whole thing probably. Not Two-Spirit. There's another word. There's another word that I'm looking for, but I can't think of it. I'll probably put it in the comments when I finally actually remember what word I'm referring to, but Ilvermorny has some very problematic ties as well in how JK put that together. So I could, talk another 30 minutes about this, but when it comes down to it, I will be seeing it. I was going to wait until, like, illegally download it or wait till a friend bought it on DVD and go watch it at their house. So it's like an untraceable viewing of it, where versus if I like downloaded it illegally, then it's still a statistic somewhere. I will be a statistic probably in the next week. However, I have a friend who gets free movies, so she said that she will take me to that free movie. And that way I'm not giving any money in its favor, and I can still support the movie theater by buying concessions, because that's where movie theaters really make their money. And I won't be contributing to ticket sales numbers, at least. I will just be a statistic of a ticket that went in the Harry Potter, well, not the Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts direction. That being said, yeah, I'm going to play each movie by ear. Harry Potter will never change for me and what it's meant for in my life. I obviously, with the beautiful Ryan of this channel, got our Harry Potter tattoos together, and the original 7 books and the original 8 movies will always mean so much to me, and going to the studio tour will mean so much to me. I don't know what I'm going to do if they decide to expand the studio tour to add Fantastic Beasts stuff, because that's a whole other video. But, you know, going to Wizarding Worlds in Universal Studios, I still want to go see the one in Orlando. It's the only one I haven't been to. You know, all of those stuff I'll have to take piece by piece, but I can support other Harry Potter people making awesome Harry Potter content, just like It's Real for Us, which is a Lauren Fairweather shirt for her Wizard Rock song, and I wore this during the studio tour. I know Ryan will recognize it, and if not, Ryan, I wore this when we went to the shirt when we went to the studio tour. And I can support fan art artists, and I can buy polymer clay adorable pieces, and I can still cosplay and still do this awesome thing, but I can definitely choose where I vote with my money. And this time I'm not voting monetarily for the wider world, wider Wizarding World anymore. God, but Nifflers are so cute. But good thing I already own my 2 Nifflers from the pop figures. Or maybe am I allowed to like not support anything except for like pop figures? See, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard out there when you're a nerd. My nerdy pleasure of the week is I've been streaming on Twitch, and I just finished a cross-stitch Twitch emote that I'll be giving away next weekend during my live streaming on Twitch next weekend. And all you need to do is be a follower and enter the giveaway raffle, the giveaway thing that it's like a thing that you do in the chat. You have to like enter. I don't know, but I'm excited, and I also, started my next cross stitch, which is, Team Mystic. I've been trying to fulfill myself creatively since I still don't have a job in my new city, and I'm not going to ask a question to the comments because I have talked so much. I'm sure there's something that you can decide to respond to in the comments below. No spoilers, please and thanks. I'm ending the stream now. Brian, I might see you next, or I might see David tomorrow. I don't know. Good questions. DFTBA.